You're watching this video because you're lonely. And there are two types of loneliness that you might potentially be experiencing. The first kind of loneliness is the loneliness of isolation. This is the kind of loneliness where you don't have anybody around you to communicate with. So you don't have anybody hitting you up, and you don't have anybody to hit up. You might not have any friends, maybe you're far away from your family, or you don't have any family, and you are literally isolated. You are alone and lonely. The second kind of loneliness is the loneliness where you have people around you. You have a group of friends and or family members who you can hit up and who are hitting you up, but they don't understand you. And they like you or love you for who they think you are, based on their perceptions of who you used to be. But that's not who you are anymore. And you feel lonely because they don't understand the real you. And you're trying to hold on. You're trying to hold on to these connections because you don't want to experience that first kind of loneliness. But you also know in the back of your mind and deep within your heart and soul that if you continue to hold on, you'll never become the person that you're capable of becoming. That is the second kind of loneliness. And in my opinion, that second kind of loneliness is much, much worse. But regardless of which loneliness that you are experiencing, regardless of which loneliness inspired you to click on this video, by the end of this video, you will know how to alleviate your loneliness for good, especially if you are an introvert. Now, the first thing you need to understand about introversion is that we as introverts, because best believe I am an introvert as well. You may not know it from watching my videos, but if you ever met me in real life and spent more than 2 or 3 days around me, you would find out very quickly just how much of an introvert I am. We as introverts crave deep, meaningful connections, which is why, again, if you are surrounded by people who don't understand you, you still feel lonely. It's because you need to be around people who understand and appreciate you at your core, at your essence. So that is the biggest prerequisite for any kind of friendship, any kind of relationship at all, including friendships, as introverts that we may go about seeking. So you need to keep this in your mind as you go about applying any of the other principles that I teach you throughout this video. Because if you try to approach these interactions as if you were an extrovert who is okay with shallow, surface level connections, then you will experience more of that second kind of loneliness, which, again, in my experience and in my opinion, and probably in your opinion, is the worst kind of loneliness to experience. Because not only are you lonely, but all of your social bandwidth is being taken up by people who make you feel lonely, so you don't even have enough space to make new friends. So the first thing you need to do, if you're experiencing that second kind of loneliness, is you need to begin isolating yourself. Now, this might sound a little bit toxic from a psychological perspective because we as humans, even as introverts, are social creatures. We are all social creatures. I don't care how introverted you are. We know this because you clicked on this video. You have a desire to socialize, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to socialize with the right kinds of people. But you need to understand that in order to make room for those people, because we as introverts don't have an unlimited social capacity. We only have a finite amount of interactions that we can handle on a day-to-day basis. In order to create space and bandwidth for those new people to enter our lives, we must first be willing to shed those outdated relationships from our lives, be it friends, family, or anybody else, even people whose content you consume, even if it's me. You have to isolate yourself from people who are no longer aligned with who you are at the core of your being. That doesn't mean you have to cut them off, but you do need to distance yourself. You need to begin distancing yourself from these people slowly but surely. Stop hitting them up. Maybe if they hit you up, you can hang out with them or you can chop it up with them, whatever, but even then, keep those interactions limited. Do not give any more of your time to these people than you absolutely have to. Now, once you've created a situation where you are now experiencing that first kind of loneliness, now it's time to begin filling in those slots with people that you actually resonate with. And this is going to come down to you putting yourself out there. Now, as an introvert, I understand how scary this can be. But a lot of this fear actually comes from the false belief that introversion is the same thing as social anxiety. Although they often go hand in hand, they are not the same thing. Just because you're introverted and just because you're even a bit shy doesn't mean that you have to allow social anxiety to rule and dictate your life. Introversion is not something that you can change, and it's not something that you should try to change because that's part of what makes you unique. Being an introvert is what allows you to foster these deep connections because you spend so much time conversing with yourself about deep topics that all you really need to do is invite people into your internal dialogue. And if they're having similar internal dialogues as you, then that's a match made in heaven. Everything's going to take care of itself. The connection will fall into place. But first, you need to get rid of this limiting belief that your introversion is also social anxiety. Now, how do you get rid of social anxiety? How do you overcome social anxiety? There are a few ways you can do this. For one, you can just throw yourself into the deep end like I did when I used to do public interviews. Believe me when I tell you that doing that first public interview that I did, which, by the way, these are all still on my channel. You can see me doing this in real time. That first public interview was one of the scariest experiences of my entire life. But at the same time, it was one of the most liberating because it taught me that I can socialize with people. I can go out and initiate conversations, initiate dialogue with people. And although I will never do it in that capacity ever again, you will never catch me walking up to women asking them to rate me on a scale from 1 to 10 ever again for the rest of my life, I still have the skill and the confidence within me to approach people when need be. Even if I still get a little bit nervous before doing so, I know that I'm capable in spite of my nerves. And that's what you need to understand, is that you are capable. You might be nervous, but you're capable. But if you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine. I understand. What I would advise you to do is I would advise you to lean into your passions. So think about the things that you love to do. For me, for example, it's working out. I love working out. I love going to the gym. I love lifting weights. So naturally, I go to the gym every day. I go to the gym every single day, 7 days a week. And because of this, I'm surrounding myself every day with other people who like to lift weights. Maybe not everyone at the gym likes to lift weights, but some of them do. And guess what? By putting myself in that space, people have approached me. By leaning into that passion and building up my physique to the point where other people find my physique to be impressive, they approach me. I don't approach them, they approach me. So when you lean into your passion, when you lean into your authenticity, people approach you. I'm going to give you another example, especially about leaning into your authenticity. When I was 20 years old, I was still a virgin. I didn't lose my V card until I was almost 21, in large part because whenever I identified that my situation was not normal, instead of hiding it and being ashamed of it, I got on TikTok, I turned my phone camera on, and I sat there and I said to the camera that I was a 20-year-old virgin. And I posted that video on TikTok. I went to sleep, and when I woke up, I had probably 5,000 to 10,000 more followers than I did that prior night. Because I had leaned into my authenticity. I had leaned into my insecurities, which ironically allowed me to shed the insecurities. Now, granted, I wasn't particularly insecure about being a virgin at that time, but a lot of people were. And I was able to liberate a lot of people from their insecurities. And as a result, I was able to attract an audience of people who genuinely resonated with me. And not only that, but I was also able to attract a lot of women into my life by doing that. And the cool thing about that was that these were women who knew what to expect. They knew that, hey, this guy is a virgin. They knew something about my value system. They knew that I wasn't like these other guys. And they were able to assess the information that I had provided them with and approach me based on their interest in me due to the information that I had given them. In other words, I'm saying all of this to say that when you lean into your authenticity and you combine your authenticity with passion, for me, my passion, especially at that time, was content creation. People will come to you. People will approach you. You don't even have to approach people. They are going to bring the conversation to you. If you like basketball and you go play basketball, you practice every day, you become really good. When you join those pickup games and you're gaming people left and right, fadeaway threes, you're dunking on people's heads, they are going to want to talk to you. They're going to naturally gravitate toward you because they share a common interest with you and they see you as somebody who's admirable within that space. And don't tell me you don't have the time to lean into your passion and become really good at it because you don't have friends. You don't have friends to distract you from doing that. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but that's the reality. You need to start using your time in such a way that you become good at the things that you're doing, and people will come to you. People will come to you. I remember when I was 21 years old, I had just broken up with my ex-girlfriend, who, by the way, I had met on TikTok, who had found me from that video about being a 20-year-old virgin. I had just broken up with her, fresh off of the breakup, and part of my self-care healing routine, if you will, was every day I would go to this spot, it was this hill back home in Texas, where I would watch the sunset. And I would sit on that hill, leave my phone in the car, just completely alone with myself. And guess what started happening? People started approaching me. People started coming up to me asking, hey, can I sit next to you? Girls came up to me, asked me, hey, can I sit next to you? And I said, yeah, sure. And we would engage in some conversation. Some of it was small talk. So again, it wasn't really to my liking, but still, the opportunities were there. And I was also able to engage in some very deep conversations. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had the courage to just embrace being alone and go and watch the sunset by myself, but put myself in a position where people could access me. The only way that people will be able to access you is if you put yourself out there. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to, again, do public interviews or anything like that. But what it does mean is that you need to utilize the resources at your disposal. For example, the internet. You're watching this on some sort of technological device, and I'm willing to bet that that technological device has a camera on it. Maybe it's not a good camera, but it's a camera. That means that you can post videos. You have access to YouTube, you have access to a camera, and you are probably capable of speaking. Even if you're not good at speaking, you're capable of speaking. So you can make YouTube videos, and you can garner an audience of people with whom you resonate. That's my mission with all of these videos, with videos exactly like this one, is to bring in people who remind me of my younger self so that I can help them avoid all of the mistakes that I made, so that I can give you all of the lessons without any of the losses. And look, if you want to receive all of these lessons without any of the losses directly from me by speaking to me every week, and you want to immediately surround yourself with other people who understand you, who appreciate you, and who inspire you to elevate your game and become as good as you possibly can be in every facet of life, Click the link in the description to learn more about how you can make that happen.